What up guys, Supermetal983 here bringing you another album review, and this time we've got some riffing, and I do mean riffing technical death metal for you to check out today. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the new album from the band Revocation entitled Netherheaven. This is released on the Metal Blade Records in 2022. Now, if you're not too familiar with Revocation, they're a technical death metal band, a three-piece technical death metal band hailing from the US, and I've been a fan of these guys for quite a few years now, and it's only, I would say over the past 4 years, I'd say, that the band has really become one of my favourites in technical death metal, and they're not just a run-of-the-mill normal sort of technical death metal band. They are, I would say, a technical death thrash kind of band. Like, they take a lot of influence from thrash metal, and it really makes them set aside from the rest of the bands in the technical death metal scene. And in my personal opinion, there is not a band that sounds like Revocation. You can tell there's bands that are influenced by Revocation, but Revocation are their own flagship, if you ask me, and that goes from their first couple of albums all the way to their new stuff. They've always had a signature sort of sound going for them, and that is mainly because of the mastermind Dave Davison on guitar and vocals. He is an absolute riff genius, in my personal opinion. I think he's an absolute guitar guru, and he is one of the best guitar players in modern metal nowadays. He's up there, and if you haven't checked out some of his work and videos on like YouTube, on like Guitar World and stuff like that, I'd highly recommend you check it out. It's so interesting, and just seeing his notation, just the way he expresses in his music is just, it honestly blows my mind. And I love seeing. I'm not a massive guitar player even at all. Like, I do play a bit of guitar, but I'm not that technically minded. But some of the stuff he plays just blows my mind. Honestly, absolutely incredible musician. And when I say over the past 4 years, I would say, like, I have listened to them and kept up to date, but I've really grown to become a massive fan since their last album. But I have 5 CDs of theirs so far. I need to get a couple more of theirs. But the first, one of the first ones I actually picked up was Is Futile, which is definitely more of a straight up death thrash sort of album. So yeah, they kind of dwell more into technical territory, I would say, after this album, but it is still a very technical album, but absolutely incredible stuff. And then I believe it was this one. This is one of the later ones. This is the self-titled album, which, in my opinion, when I first heard it, I thought it was okay, but like I said, in the past 4 years, I went back to this album and I was like, fuck, what the fuck was I thinking? But yeah, it's a really solid album, definitely fits in their discography. And then the album that truly made us click with the band was this album, which is called Deathless, I believe. Yep, Deathless. This one came out in 2014, and I really enjoyed this album when it dropped. It really pushed them in a new sort of direction, the same along with the self-titled album as well. But yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. Definitely this one has some mega riffs on it, and it's what made us realise, okay, these guys bring some riffs, was this album. And then this was my favourite album of theirs for a long time, and this was their 2016 album entitled Great Is Our Sin. Now, this one I would personally say is their most melodic sounding, just because of the clean sort of half scream vocals, you know, the angsty clean vocals, shall I say, that he started to do a lot more, Lord Dave, shall I say. But yeah, this is an absolutely great album, and definitely one of the most memorable in their discography. When I think of Revocation, I usually think Great Is Our Sin. And then we get to 2018, I believe. Yep, 2018, with the arrival of The Outer Ones, which you can barely see the cover, but yeah, I've got a shirt of this album. And this album is an album that definitely blew my mind and made us really truly appreciate David Davison, his songwriting and his expressiveness on the instrument. It just made us go, holy shit, this guy is a fucking guitar god. So yeah, and then I became obsessed with this, and then I went through the other albums that I haven't got on CD, and the ones that I've just showed you, and they've just grew to become one of my favourite bands. They're just such a fun, likeable band, but very interesting and very, very good, shall we say. And then, fast forward, God, 4 years it's been. 4 years, and we get to 2022 with the arrival of Netherheaven. So yeah, it's 9 tracks and runs 45 minutes in length. And this was, I would say, one of my most hyped up albums for 2022. Like, it was one that I was really, really excited for when they announced it, and they dropped the first track, Diabolical Majesty. And I was really excited, stuck it on straight away, and I was honestly blown away, because the band is now, they parted ways with their lead guitarist, and they've gone forth as a 3-piece, and I was interested to see where it would take, because I know the other guitarists had a bit of influence in the songwriting, but this is 100% David Davison, and I wanted to see what was next for Revocation, because it was going to unlock something. I was guaranteed it was going to be something different, but definitely sound like Revocation, you know. And from that track, I knew instantly that this was going to be a slightly different direction, and a different sort of approach, because this, I would say, hearing that song, I was like, okay, they're going to go in a more darker, more blackened sort of direction. Like, there's a bit more ambience and a bit more eeriness to the chords. Like, I feel like the last album definitely had that sort of like experimentation in it, whereas this one, the experimentation is going into more darker sort of sounds and more evil sounds to make it a bit more of a death metal sort of, or straight up death metal influence. So I can definitely hear a kind of Morbid Angel influence on here, like that darker, more pummeling sound and death metal in the atmosphere, but it doesn't have that sort of like boom and pound sort of style like Morbid Angel or Suffocation, for example. It's just Revocation taking on board a bit more of an influence from that sort of dominion, you could say, or that alternative dimension, you could say, like taking that sort of influence and, okay, going for what could we do with this sound of Revocation, but make it a little bit more darker, a bit more blackened. Like, I wouldn't say it's like a blackened death metal sort of record. It just has that overall atmosphere and vibe to it that's like, okay, that's what they're sort of going for. And throughout the course of the album, when listening to it, because Diabolical Majesty opens up the album, the whole album definitely is drenched in this sort of atmosphere, but the unique chord progressions and the unique arpeggios and stuff like that Dave manages to pull out of his arsenal to make, okay, this can add here, just to flourish like the riffs and the licks on this album. It just gives it that sort of, wow, what the fuck am I listening to? Like, just the way the songs are written, it's very intricate, very unique, because he, like as I said, he is a guitar guru. He knows how to put these like little sprinklings, like some drummers can like fill voids in with like little drum fills and little licks here and there, but Dave manages to do that on guitar, like creates like this empty space where you just get a generic sort of lick, but just give this sort of like weird chord shape, like, okay, I'll put this in here, and it just works. It just fits the overall atmosphere. And I don't know if he's been listening to a bit of Morbid Angel, Suffocation, or even some like Septic Flesh or something like that. I don't know if he's been listening to that sort of stuff, but that overall atmosphere is just shrouded on this album, and it just makes it just feel that bit more darker, and it really sets it apart, shall we say, from the rest of this discography, because like as I said, every album's been riffy or very intricate, very technical, whereas this one is very technical and has blast beats all over. It's got the thrash beats in there, so it's a thrash death record, but just that overall atmosphere and the intricate songwriting just makes it seem a little bit more set aside for, sets itself apart, should I say, I keep on saying that, sets itself aside from the rest of Revocation's discography, and Revocation's discography, I will say, is pretty much flawless, and this album just fits into the fold nicely, but sets it apart. Like, I would say the outer ones definitely set it aside for, like, the technicality and the experimentative sort of side of it, but whereas this one definitely sets it in an experimentative side, but into more grimmer sort of atmosphere, and you can feel it across the entire album. And it is still a very heavy album as well, because I feel like the tone overall on this album is very, very intense. Like, it has a very similar production sound to the likes of Outer Ones, but it just feels more thicker and just a bit more chunkier. Like, the riffs themselves definitely take on board, like, okay, more death metal sort of image, like, really, that lower tuning that they've gone for since Dave stepped up to the 7-string has just gave them a lot more expressiveness across their entire discography. But this one, it definitely sets it apart with that low tune and chunk behind it. It sounds absolutely incredible, and the drum work is absolutely fucking incredible as well. Like, it really is a neck breaker of an album, like, from the drum performance. Like, if you are going to see these guys live, and I'm hoping I get to see them because I'm sure they're doing the European tour. If my memory serves, it's with Goatwhore, Alluvial, and Creeping Death, I think it is. I think it's Creeping Death. I always get them and another band mixed up, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's them three. And that is a perfect lineup for this album's release tour. But yeah, like, if you're going to these shows and you're going to hear these songs, you know you're going to be headbanging. You're going to be headbanging, and it's not going to stop throughout the entire show. And by the end, your neck's going to be like Corpse Grinder, which, pun, we'll mention that in a second. But yeah, the tracks in general just flow so nicely into one another. But each track sounds nothing like the other. Like, the overall sound that they're going for transitions well into different songs, but each song has its own unique sort of character. And one track that definitely set itself apart when I was listening to it was The Strange and Eternal, which has that kind of like cleaner, sort of like angsty clean vocals in there that I really enjoy. Davidson's expressiveness on those type of vocals, like, but yeah, it really set aside with that darker sort of atmosphere behind it, and it sounds very eerie but still very atmospheric, and has a lot of prowess and a lot of monolithicness. Like, this album in general does sound monolithic from beginning to end. Like, it sounds huge, it sounds massive, so that song definitely sets it aside on that. Absolutely loved it. Another song I would say, The Ninth Chasm, absolutely incredible song as well. And the 7th track, Godforsaken, my fucking god, the slam at the end of that, well, slam, breakdown, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna say that chunky bit at the end. Holy shit, I did not expect that at all. I was just listening away, just headbanging away, and then it just hit, and it hit the sting face like that. Ooh, dear God, David, man, why'd you do that? But yeah, and it just fits so well. I was just like, it just came out of nowhere like an RKO. It was just there, and it just slapped so fucking hard. Absolutely loved it. And I will say as well, Dave's lead work on this album is fucking incredible. His songwriting is something else, but his lead work, he's like, okay, I've written this incredible song. I need to have a lead section here. Don't worry, boys, I got this. And just go straight into it. You can feel like he knew instantly when he was playing what to play. Like, that wasn't a multi-take thing. He was like, I've got this. Because he's an absolute genius in my eyes. But yeah, and I will also, I don't want to set aside, the bass work is absolutely incredible. Just given that chunk behind the guitars, like Dave's guitar tone is really thick, but the bass tone behind it, to play that sort of stuff as well behind Dave, it's not just root notes, just following it, just playing the right thing at the right time. It just surrounds the mix and just makes it sound fatter and chunkier, and I absolutely love it. And like, I know I said this is probably the darker stuff, I would definitely say this is the heaviest Revocation has sounded across their discography. And I really want to speak about one song in particular, and I'm going to try not to get myself too upset over this. Some of you may know why. The last track, the 9th track, Re-Crucified. It dropped after Diabolical Majesty, so it was on the lead up to the album. And when I saw the track list, I saw that it was Corpse Grinder doing a guest spot, and also Trevor Strnad. And that, for me, when I saw that, it was a bitter pill to see. And I was like, oh no, this is probably the last thing that he recorded. I don't know if I can actually listen to it. And I went to go and listen to it one day, and I couldn't bring myself. And I know I'm getting a bit sentimental here, but I was like, okay. Just before the album came out, I was like, I need to listen to it. I need to hear it. So I stuck it on. I listened to Diabolical Majesty as well, because on Apple Music it played like that track into that track. I'm really enjoying Apple Music so far. Anyway, but so I stuck that on, and then I went into Re-Crucified, and I was like, okay, this is a death metal track, definitely. Okay, so it's kicking into Dave doing his thing, and then Trevor came in, and I was just like, there he is, fucking hell. And I just I was stopped in motion, just listening to it, and I was like, this is the last time I'm going to hear some fresh Trevor Strnad. And it was absolutely incredible to hear, and to hear Dave and Trevor have a very unique vocal style, like, together, like, it sounded really fucking good. And then Corpse Grinder comes in with his monstrous, massive neck lows, and he's done quite a few guest spots, Corpse Grinder, over the past couple of years. Suicide Silence comes to mind, Ice 9 Kills as well. And then to hear on this, it's just like, yeah, that hit. It hit the sweet spot for Corpse Grinder. And then I got the end of the song, and I just had to reflect a little bit on, like, those three vocalists going out on an absolutely meaty as fuck concluder to this album, and I was just left in just awe. And I've listened to it on repeat, this album, since it came out, and it's become one of my favourite albums of this year so far. And Re-Crucified has become one of my favourite songs of this year. Probably in the sentimental sort of value, but I take that with a pinch of salt, because the song is absolutely incredible. And to hear Trevor one last time was an absolute honour, if you ask me. And I will say honour, it hit us with a lot of pride. Rest in peace, Trevor. We'll still miss you, brother. But, yeah, what can I say? Revocation, they've highlighted why they are one of my favourite death metal bands of all time. Like, I'm decreasing the subgenres here. I'm going for death metal. I might even go as far as saying metal, because they are such a good band, and every album they've put out has been absolutely incredible. And Netherheaven is probably their darkest material, but most evil sounding material at the same time, and their heaviest. And it hit a real sweet spot for me. Absolutely incredible. And it is one of my favourite albums of this year so far. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer, just a little bit, but at the same time, it did what it did, and it's absolutely smashed it, and I really hope I get to see. I saw them with Obscura quite a number of years ago, and I just need to see them again, because, man alive, this album fucking riffs. And for an overall score, though, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Absolutely fucking incredible album. Make sure you check out Revocation. Would usually say check it out for fans of, but I can't, because Revocation are their own sounding band. But yeah, I'll leave links down below of where you can check out a couple of songs of theirs. If there's a full live stream, I'll update it down below. And also, Re-Crucified is in my Soup Metal 1993 Riffs for Days playlist on Spotify, which you can find linked down below. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like. You know, I'm a YouTuber. It's what we do. But yeah, I'll see you until the next video. And remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.